fuel queues are back in almost every state in Nigeria. This has now become a recurring problem, bringing along with it uncomfortable economic and social disruptions. The question is, why is Nigeria still experiencing persistent fuel supply disruption despite the removal of subsidy and the promise that it will make the product more readily available? AIT's news correspondent Yemi Adebayo reports.
As the sole importer of petrol, NNPC Limited's failure to meet the country's demand has resulted in chronic undersupply. Despite an increase in fuel price, the queues are back, persistent as ever.
It's terrible, because Nigeria is blessed with the resources, but I don't know what is happening to us. I've been here for more than 4 hours. I have not seen fuel.
It's not easy for us. We're begging the government, at least, let them help us. Let them make the fuel available for us. Even though if they're increasing it, at least let the fuel be available for us.
This was not the expectation when subsidy was removed in May 2023. Nigeria still largely imports the fuel it consumes. The NNPC Limited does the importation business, monopolizing the market, yet unable to deliver.
We've passed a bill, the Petroleum Industry Act. It's now an act, but we haven't implemented it. So that in itself is a big problem, because by the time you start digging down to say, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is it happening? You come down to the root that we have a downstream sector that is not being correctly regulated now, not because the bill has not provided for it, not because we don't have a regulator, but because there is no implementation.
The NNPC Limited has been hit by missiles of criticism, particularly following the Dangote face-off. As the country with the 7th largest refinery in the world, Nigerians are in disbelief as to why the NNPC should be importing fuel and why the Dangote Refinery does not receive enough crude, at least to make local supply available and affordable.
We have heard that's the 450,000 barrels crude oil per day that is earmarked, for domestic consumption. We need to find out what exactly is happening to that allocation. Once we have done with that, we can then look at our crude oil production quota from the OPEC and make a case for ourselves.
I'm actually surprised for somebody to come and mention that, yes, we have a bad quality. We and the other modular refineries. I can't talk about the quality of the modular refineries, but our own today, like what I said, our own production, we have seen, we have tested it, is 87 ppm.
Several other private refineries in Nigeria are in the same situation as Dangote. Operators of the Edo Refinery and Petrochemicals Company Limited recently issued a statement saying its 1,000 barrels per day refinery has yet to receive any product. A source within the NNPC Limited says the problem is due to the inability of the country to produce enough crude, with production levels at ranging between 1.3 and 1.6 million barrels per day. Despite this, President Tinubu had recently directed the sale of crude in Naira to local refineries.
We spend roughly 30 to 40% of our foreign exchange today on importation of PMS that we consume. And in monetary terms, monthly, we spend roughly $660 million in this exercise. And if you annualize that, that one will give us $7.92 billion pressure that we have. With this approval today through FEC, led by Mr. President, this has reduced by minimum of 90%. Because what you have today will be this transaction is now done in our local currency, not only with Dangote Refinery, for all local refineries.
Nigerian crude should be sold in Nigerian Naira to the refineries that are refining in country. One of the reasons why we gave that advice was that it will cushion up the power and the purchasing power and the capacity of our Naira. So we encourage the president to keep pushing his men and his people to make sure that that policy works. It will help Nigeria a lot.
Many Nigerians believe it is unfair to pay higher fuel prices and yet suffer before filling their cars, despite the fact that subsidy was removed. The reality seems to indicate, however, that the NNPC Limited is still subsidizing fuel pump price, as the current landing cost has shot above 1,200 Naira. This means that NNPC Limited is paying in excess of 500 to 600 Naira to enable Nigerians purchase the products at 617 Naira in its retail outlets, which is sold at about 690 Naira to 980 Naira at stations controlled by other petroleum marketers. This may have affected how much quantity of refined products the NNPC can import and the attendant supply issues currently being experienced in the country. Watch out for the next part of this report, which will focus on what needs to be done to ensure Nigeria is energy sufficient. Yemi Adebayo, AIT News, Abuja.